change. We have found our voice, we know we have a choice. Our little light is shining bright. We're all made of stars, and the future's ours. Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for. We can put our broken world back together. We're diamonds in the rough, we can be wise and tough. You try to bury us, but we are seeds. We won't be shy or scared, we'll arrive prepared. Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for. We're gonna rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. We're gonna rise up, rise up, rise up.
We gotta rise up when the times are tough. We gotta rise up when we're out of luck. We gotta rise to the occasion, change the equation, make sure that we help raise education. To every student in the world, this is your creation. What we do now is a gift for generations to come. So don't let them tell you that we're done, cause we're just getting started, so tell them we've just begun. Yeah.
Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for. We are the ones we are waiting for. We are living in a world that needs to change. We have found our voice, we know we have a choice. Our little light is shining bright. We're all made of stars, and the future's ours. Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for.
So I will rise, we will rise, we will rise.
We can put our broken world back together. We're diamonds in the rough, we can be wise and tough. You try to bury us, but we are seeds. We won't be shy or scared, we'll arrive prepared. Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for. We're gonna rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. We're gonna rise up, rise up, rise up.
We gotta rise up when the times are tough. We gotta rise up when we're out of luck. We gotta rise to the occasion, change the equation, make sure that we help raise education. To every student in the world, this is your creation. What we do now is the gift for generations to come. So don't let them tell you that we're done, cause we're just getting started, so tell them we've just begun. Yeah.
Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for. We are the ones we are waiting for. We are the ones we are waiting for.
I will see you in 2021.
We all know that a lot of stuff that is going on in school is really not useful for life, right? Whereas a lot of stuff which is useful for life has not found its way in school.
So many students were not able to get education, or not able to afford school, or not able to go to, or not able to find a safe space.
So when you actually sit down in a safe space and have a reflective session with a bunch of people who are leading a district, you see that they didn't enjoy their education themselves. They were beaten as children. They were never given voice.
I think so many of us share a dream vision for an education system in the future that is really distinct from the past. We have dreams for teaching and learning that is more life affirming, less rote, more human.
We want students to speak up.
School doesn't ask students while taking any decision, right? But we want to say that student is a main stakeholder of that school. So students should be asked for the decisions.
And I started to work with my Teach for Armenia teacher, and we make together movie club. And it is space where every and each person is equal with each other. And
So one of our teacher, Snehal Didi, she got through us, and we came up with a project called the Project Kaleidoscope.
You breathed in this very polluted air that says that educators should have more power, more voice than students. And so I think it is really revolutionary to question that balance of power. And I think it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of courage.
Hello everyone. So glad that you could join us this evening. Before we start anything else, I request you all to close your eyes and imagine this. You have finally arrived at KER Week, a space which helps you realize and actualize your best self possible. A space bustling with conversations. It is simultaneously bursting with music, colors, and hopes. Different and diverse faces, thoughts, and voices. But one commonality ties us all together. Warm smiles on our faces and eyes filled with hope. A space which helps you bridge the adult-student partnership gap. A space which is safe, non-judgmental, and revolutionary. A space which challenges you and broadens your mind. A space which leads with example, student leaders everywhere your head turns, and a desire for change making in every heart. And you will experience all of this year too, just digitally. Simply put, this year, KER Week is a slice of a better world and an equitable education system you get to witness right here from the comfort of your own homes. And in just 3 words, inviting, energizing, and thought inducing. This is what KER Week was for me and is for me. And this is what KER Week will hopefully soon be for you too. A big warm welcome to all of you who joined our live stream today. My co-host for the next 3 days is Kritika Didi, and her superpower is her aura, which makes you feel so safe, so loved, and so encouraged and understood by her, which enables in turn for you to be a change maker and be a better version of yourself.
Thank you. And my co-host is Soumya, who always amazes me by her ability to learn continuously and so quickly that helps her grow as a leader that she is today.
Thank you, Kritika Didi. We would love to invite you to introduce yourselves to each other in the chat box with your own name and your superpower too. We are so glad to have you all at KER Week 2021 and are looking forward to your introductions in the chat box. But anyway, does anyone remember the theme for today? I'll give you some clues. The theme is in a global context and it also includes the name of a country. For the next 3 days, we'll be exploring 3 different themes. And if you were guessing that the theme for today is India and the world, you were correct. We will be exploring this theme where we'll be listening to student and adult change makers who have helped solve their local problems persisting in India, along with also those who have transcended boundaries to solve the pressing challenges we face as a global community. So much to learn and so much to share, not just today, but for the next 3 days. And before we jump into our day to explore our theme for today, I would ask you all to recall the 8 C's of KER. Our hosts for last night, Shivani Didi and Koina, had also mentioned them. And I think they were also there in your mailbox. So if you can remember them, any and all of the 8 C's, please do put them in the chat box so that we can all recall them together, and others who might be new to them can just revise them quickly. Lovely to see so many messages and so many of the C's in the chat box. But just to give you a list quickly so you can choose out of them which you want to embody today: communication, creativity, collaboration, consciousness, courage, critical thinking, compassion, and curiosity are the 8 C's which KER upholds and we can embody. So which of these 2 C's will you operate with today? Which of the 2 C's will you embody today? Please do let us know in the chat box. With this, I hope you're feeling ready, prepared, and buckled up for the next 3 days. Now, Kritika Didi, please take us over the agenda for today.
Thank you, Soumya. So at KER, we believe that everyone should have a choice in what and how they want to learn. And so we have all kinds of spaces lined up for you throughout the day. We have the session stage happening right here on this live stream for those of you who want to leave this space with many diverse experiences and sparks. And for those of you who choose to build depth and really experience what it means to learn with and from our children, we have our Reimagined classrooms happening on Zoom. And lastly, we have Change Labs in collaboration with Museum of Solutions for a select group of students who will be spending 3 days solving real-world problems around them. At the end of these spaces, we will come back on this very live stream for our closing, which will be followed by my favorite part of KER Week, which is the community building spaces. One of the most special parts of KER Week is the bonds you form and the conversations you have. Now, while it might be difficult to have a chat with our friend over chai in a virtual world, we have tried to replicate that through KER Chronicles and Chat for Change. KER Chronicles is a safe and voluntary space for anyone who would like to share an idea, a skill, or a story. And it's open to everyone, both students and educators. You can be there as a performer or as an attendee. At Chat for Change, hosted by Outlaw Today, which is a youth led initiative from Bangalore working on driving citizen engagement with the law, we will explore how all of us can engage with the law towards being responsible citizens. This space is also open for both students and educators. Now, I know I have spoken a lot, Samya, so I think it's time for some inspiration. I'm going to pause and invite our keynote speaker for the day, Ashraf Patel. Ashraf Patel is the founding member of Prava and Community, the youth collective. She deeply believes in the power of the youth and is passionate advocate for high impact spaces grounded in the fifth space framework, which you will hear her talk about in her speech. She strongly believes that a generation of empathetic and sensitive youth change makers is the key to building a more inclusive society. She was also titled the Social Entrepreneur of the Year in 2020. The keynote address will also be followed by a Q&A with our very own student revolutionary Sandhya. So with that, over to you, Ashraf.
Thank you so much, Shaheen and Teach for India community, to have invited me to be part of this amazing celebration, the Kids Education Revolution Week 2021. It's an honor to be here, also because I've seen Teach for India grow since it was seeded into this beautiful collective of so many children, young people, educators, social entrepreneurs, all education revolutionaries here, if I may say. So I'm going to start this talk with a small thought experiment. I'd like you all to just sit back and think, oh, you are in this situation. It's a really hot day. You have just left your home. You've just taken a bath, left your home, and you're running to reach somewhere urgently, and you're already late. It is the time for water scarcity as well. And suddenly you realize that you had left the tap in the bathroom open. You've already left your home a distance, and it just strikes you, oh my God, I've left the tap open. What would you do? Just take a minute and think. Okay. My guess is that many of you, not all, but many of you would have rushed back to turn the tap off. Yeah. Let's do the situation again. The scenario has changed. This bathroom is not the bathroom of your home. The bathroom that you have left and you're rushing to go somewhere is actually the bathroom of your school or your workplace. And you realize somewhere down the road, oh my God, I think I've left the tap open. What would you do? Hand on your heart, honestly, what would you do? Okay. So I'm not collecting the inputs from everyone, but wherever we have done this, my guess is many of you would have come back to put it off, but as many of you may have said, okay, somebody is there. There will be my school, there'll be a caretaker, there'll be somebody at my workplace, and they will notice it and they will put it off. This is what we normally hear in a short, quick survey. Why does this happen? This is really about our own understanding of spaces and the way we can actually take ownership for common spaces. So while it's easy for us to take ownership for our own spaces, but when it comes to common spaces, there is always a little bit differently how we think of them. Kids Education Revolution to me is about bringing to our mind space, to the mind space of young people and people in education and everyone, that we need to claim our common spaces, to understand our independence as well as our interdependence, and to work together to find solutions to wicked problems that we face around us and walk the paradoxes in our lives together as we navigate it with a sense of ownership. How does that happen? Kids Education Revolution to me is about building leadership. How often have we heard around us, we need more leaders. Oh, I wish we had better leaders in our world, in politics, in governments. We keep hearing that, don't we? The need for leaders and role models has been immensely felt across all sorts of issues that we are facing. Not only, for example, COVID, but also the what COVID has exposed to us, even in more starker fashion, the issues of inequality, injustice, and the ecological crisis that is looming before us. So we all want leaders, but where do these leaders come from? They don't just come out of anywhere, right? They're nurtured in some spaces. We all know that India has the largest youth population in the world, and yet we do not have adequate representation of young people in decision making in most of the sectors across all spaces. Why does this happen? Let's examine this a little bit further. If you look at young people and the spaces we occupy, there are many young people here, but there are also, I understand, facilitators and adults and educators. But let's understand where young people are located. There are 4 spaces that we typically occupy as young people. One is that of family. The second space is that of friends. The third space is that of education, careers, livelihood, right? We spend like 50% of our lives in these institutions. And the fourth space that young people really occupy is that of recreation, be it sports, media, social media, hobbies, whatever. Now, if we study the nature of these 4 spaces in our society, we find that, and we ask the question, who sets the rules of these spaces? More often than not, we'll see that the rules in all these 4 spaces are not set by young people. They're set by adults or basically others. In our families, decisions on what we will eat, where we will go for a holiday, what time we should sleep even, how much screen time can we have. Some of these decisions are influenced a lot by parents, right? And as we get older, many of you will be surprised that statistics show that 60% of young people say that their decisions, life decisions on career and marriage, and even the friends that we will keep, are heavily influenced by parents and adults. So let's come to the space of education and careers. I mean, careers, we know, very, very mostly hierarchical. The boss decides everything. In schools and colleges, do we as young people decide what is our education going to be, who our teachers are going to be, what are the timings of the school, what should the schools look like, what should the schools feel like? I mean, all these decisions that make the space where we spend so much of our lives in. Do we as young people influence that? Not really. It's been decided either by the administration or the government, or mostly others, right? Even where there are student councils, are they functional? What sort of decisions do they take? Let's take the space of friends. We think it's a space to be, it's a space, our own space, but again, that is a space that is very heavily influenced by peer pressure. As we can see, then, that in a hierarchical, patriarchal society where there are a lot of social norms operating, it's very hard for young people to take decisions that determine their own lives. Forget decisions about society, just their own lives. And leadership is all about decision making at the end of the day. If we have to build leaders, if we have to build a kids' education revolution, which will need leaders, we need to equip them with decision making skills. And where can these decision making skills be learned? And this is what we call the 5th space, which is the space which is different from the 4 spaces in a way that it is a space that is co-created by young people, a space where young people can learn, lead, and experiment to find themselves, to discover their own identities, and to discover the world around them through volunteering and citizenship action. Kids' Education Revolution to me is all about that. It's about young people really redefining what is education with educators and talking about learning. It is about breaking the knowledge monopoly. There is no knowledge monopoly right now. Knowledge is not everything. Knowledge can only take us to a particular place. Finally, we have to learn to take decisions in our lives and about our communities. it is indeed a way of bringing home the fact that the world is our classroom and the classroom needs to also go to the world. So I really wish that this week is absolutely outstanding. There will be young people and educators and facilitators who will come together and create this wonderful space of learning and leadership, because at the end of the day, it is all resting on us. Thank you so much, celebrating each of you who have made the time to be here, and best wishes.
Thank you so much, Ashram Didi, for such a meaningful speech. And the tap metaphor really got me thinking about my actions. I've got a question for you. Like, as there are many educators and facilitators with us, thinking what they might be thinking right now is like, what can the educators and the other stakeholders do to incorporate the values of the fifth space in their classes, in their classrooms, and in the education system?
So, Sandhya, thanks for asking. And I think in the fifth space, I think many educators in this kids education revolution probably are already doing it. The fifth space really talks about 5 feelings, and I wanted to share that. It talks about love, freedom, ownership, growth, and social hope. So what most of us in this space feel, that if we can create this feeling, like the moment you walk into this space, you will experience that. Then that is what is the fifth space. So if we can have these 5 guiding feelings in our mind, we often talk about curriculum in terms of skills, right? That we have to build these skills in young people. But we also need to talk about the space that we create where these skills are built. And if we can have these 5 feelings in that space, then you can be sure that the young people are actually being nourished to be decision makers.
Thank you so much. I hope the educators and facilitators were taking notes. Actually, I was like in my mind, because I also want to be an educator someday, and I would definitely want these to come alive in my classroom and wherever I am. I've got another question for you. And like, as a young person, being part of KER, I have got to experience so much, and I have got that space, thankfully. But whenever I think of trying to bring change, I feel like not just me, many of the young people struggle and have to face the challenges already existing in our society. So what can we do to make them unlearn the things that are already existing? Because it becomes very difficult to like bring them to our same mindset.
That's a really good question, because that is the biggest challenge, right? I talked about is that it's anybody who has a different view, right? And that is where the real clash comes. And I think one of the biggest things that we need to, as young people, that we can do is expand also our ability to listen and engage and understand why. Okay, what happens in most of these conflicts with others who have a different view is that the moment we have a different view, we feel, oh, now there's a conflict, and now we don't agree with the other, so we can either not talk to each other or they'll never understand. So everything becomes apart. The whole one of the ways, like how to do a trick around this, is not to get, if as young people, not necessarily to get into a straight head-on confrontation, but actually to try to explore what is going on in the other people or the other group or the other person's mind, and try to come from where they are coming from. And that actually is, in a way, also exploration of empathy.
Wow, like actually very beautifully put, Didi. Yeah, I think this should help me and others here, the young change makers. I have one more question, and this is our last question to you. what role can the young people play in the post world in driving the change?
I think it's been very hard for young people, and my heart goes out to all of you. Adults के लिए भी hard है, सबके लिए hard है. सब लोग अपने people are making their own way through this madness. But I think for young people, when this is your time to be with your friends, to hang out, to learn, there's so much that is being lost in terms of that learning space in COVID. I think a couple of things that we must continue to do is to work on our own resilience. And our resilience will come from investing in each other. So when one suggestion I have is have conversations with your parents. Have conversations, make intergenerational dialogues happen. Wherever you possible, like in your homes or in your communities or even on Zoom, whenever. What I feel is right now what we need is young people and adults and older people to have conversations on what they're feeling. Yeah. Okay. Everybody in their heart is going through something, but sometimes you feel there's no point talking about it because nobody can do anything about it, right? So I feel for us, for well-being of the young people and well-being of society in general, we need to start having conversations about what we are feeling, how do we cope with them, and the coping will come through dialogue. We learn from each other and we know that we are not alone, then we learn together. So a lot of this is about building community. I would think in this time, it's very important to have intergenerational conversations. And remember, your parents and other adults are also going through the same feelings. So being also in their lives to see how you can nourish their feeling of hope. The other thing many young people are, of course, also doing is they are doing small collections. They are doing a fundraising drive for those communities which are really, on the marginalized sections. You really have to look out for that. So really, wherever possible, join student and youth groups who are participating in relief actions. There are many, right? Then there are lots of, and I think in your community also, in the kids education community also, actions around vaccination, inspiring the adults around you also to go, reducing vaccination hesitancy. All these are things that you can do in COVID times too.
Thank you so much. It was beautiful hearing you. I definitely personally have gained a lot of insights from you, and I hope like my friends and all the educators here present have done the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was just beautiful to be here. Thanks, Sandhya, for making time to invite me to join these questions.
Thank you so much, Ashraf and Sandhya. This really got me thinking about the role that we as educators and citizens can play in building spaces for our youth to practice their leadership. And now, before we head into our learning spaces, a few simple housekeeping rules. For those of you who have registered for session stage, you can stay here on this live YouTube live stream. And those who have registered for our Reimagining classrooms and change labs happening on Zoom, you should have received a Zoom link in your inbox this morning. Please use that to head on to your room. We will be coming back on this Zoom link at 6 p.m. for our closing, and we hope to see you all there. If you need help locating your Zoom room or have any other questions, please reach out to Shivani and Zui on support@kidseducationrevolution.org. And now we would love to hand it over to Koina, who will be with you throughout the session stage today.
Thank you, Kritika Didi. Hi everyone, my name is Koina and I'm from Bhilai, Chhattisgarh. and I'm a student evolutionary from KER, and also I've recently passed out from 12th grade. For today, I'm going to be your MC, and as we explore the role that leadership can play in transforming India and the world, our first session for today will be a live panel discussion on the topic of how we can reimagine education for all children in the world. I would like to invite our moderator for this panel, Sandeep Bhaiya, the Chief of City Operation at Teach for India and the author of Grey Sunshine. He is joined by four amazing panelists, Wendy Didi and Seema Didi, along with two youth panelists, Lisa and Anjali. Over to you, Sandeep Bhaiya.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Just want to make sure before we get started that we have everyone here with us. I see Anjali and Seema. Hi, Anjali. Hi, Seema.
Hey, hi, Sandeep.
And hi, Liza.
Hi, so nice to see you.
Good to see you as well. We're just going to give it another 2 minutes or so before we get started, folks, yeah?
Sounds good.
Okay, well, let's begin. Very, very excited to be talking with all of you today. I think we're really privileged to be joined by all of you four incredible leaders. I know Wendy will be joining us in just a few minutes. And before we get started, just some quick introductions for our audience. We're joined by four incredible people here today. I'm just going to quickly give us a brief introduction of each before we get started, and then we'll frame this and we'll jump right into the conversation. We have Seema Bansal with us. Seema's been with BCG for more than 20 years. She actually leads the firm's social impact practice in Asia Pacific. She's done a lot of work with education, a lot of work with state governments. She's given a TED talk that has been seen many times over, that has a lot of provocations on schools and how many schools that we should have. Would highly recommend watching that. We have Anjali with us, Anjali Dugar, who until a little more than a month ago was actually a student and has now joined the Teach for India Fellowship. Anjali, very, very good to have you here. And I believe just graduated from Dartmouth literally a little bit more than 30 days ago. So welcome, Anjali. Wendy, it is very good to have you here. Welcome. We have Wendy, who is joining us from New York, the CEO of Teach for All and the co-founder of Teach for All, as well as the CEO and CEO and founder of Teach for America. Someone who's coming to us with more than 2 decades of experience across education across the world and the US. And we have Liza with us from Ukraine, who's actually studying at the Institute of International Relations and is a student joining us today. Folks, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be having this conversation with the four of you, and just to really be able to tap into the wealth of experience and knowledge and insights that all four of you bring to this conversation. We're going to be holding space over the next 30 minutes on a really important question. What will it take to reimagine education at the level of the entire system? And as we get into that conversation, what a time to be having this conversation. If we look back at the last year and a half and what has happened with education across the world, we've seen 1.4 billion kids be forced out of the school system over the last 18 months. We saw schools get shut across the world. In India today, we are still watching as schools pretty much across the country are shut. And we've seen the impact that that has had on kids. We've seen the impact that that has had on their futures. And yet at the same time, anybody who is close to education, whether you are a student, a teacher, a policymaker, we've seen people across corners of the world start to stand up and say, actually, when schools do reopen, I feel like there's an opportunity for things to work differently. We've seen people across the world stand up and say, actually, when schools were open, we didn't actually love the way that they were run. And so what an important time to be having this conversation. And so with that, I'm happy just to jump right in. Folks, reimagine education. It is a term we've been using a lot. We've heard it a lot even in the opening of today and yesterday. And that's really my first question is, what does that mean to all of you? So if you had to pick 3 words to describe what a reimagined education means to you, 3 words, and why you think those 3 words matter for the world, for education, and for kids, what would those 3 words be and why do they matter? Anyone that wants to get us started, please go for it.
I don't know. Wendy, do you want to go first? Or...
I can. I'll start. So first of all, it's such an honor to be with all of you at Kids Education Revolution and to be part of such an incredibly important discussion. So I think my 3 words would be first, purposeful. And maybe we'll get back to that, but I think we need to step back as a society and consider, what we want for our communities and our countries and our global society and what the implications of that are for what we need to be doing in our schools. And so that's my first word. My second, I think, would be empowering. I think that's a fraught word because, of course, kids have the power in them, but I think our schools are historically quite disempowering. So I am going to say empowering, like giving our kids the confidence and the power to make their education what they want it to be. And then finally, I'll say affirming. Just like supportive and affirming, building kids' confidence and sense that they can be their full selves. Seema, what would you think?
I think very similar, probably different words, but similar meanings. I want to go with choice. I think there's, at least in India, but I think around the world, there's a belief that there's a very set sort of meaning of education and how education progresses and what everyone should learn and what everyone should study. It's defined in our curriculum frameworks and the subjects and the courses, but it takes away choice. And I think given the world that we live in, the demographics and how diverse that are, everyone needs choice. So that's one. I think the second is relevance. I don't want to say 21st century skills because, that's a much abused word now, but relevance to where we are in the world today as individuals and as sort of communities and as a global sort of fun community, right? And what are the skills which are needed to be relevant today, but which are also needed to make the world a better place? And I think the third is inspiration. I think education needs to inspire the kids to be the better versions of themselves, to do bigger things, give them the confidence that they can be much bigger than the powers that they were born with. So yeah, choice, relevance, and inspiration.
Angela, would you like to add to that?
I can go next. Yeah, first, I just want to say thank you for making me part of this conversation. I feel so grateful to be sharing this space. I think my 3 words are similar, along a similar vein. The first is, the first is slightly different. I said skilled thinkers, just because I think that historically our schools are very focused on retaining information and hard skills, but the kind of world that we're living in at the moment, that just feels increasingly less relevant. I think we need to train students to make sense of the facts that surround us and to think critically, to think creatively, to think systematically. The second is love, for similar reasons that Wendy and Seema outlined, and for all of the reasons that KER centers its approach around love. I think when students don't feel safe or respected or truly known by their teacher, they are just far less likely to invest and engage in their education. They feel less intrinsically motivated. And the third, I would say, is grit, just because I think it's one of the most important non-cognitive skills for learning and for growth mindset and just predictive of all kinds of future outcomes. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Liza?
And I also want to thank you for having me today. It's such an honor for me, and I'm really grateful for this. And actually, I think we got the same meaning by using different words. So I can relate to most of what you said, I think, with all of you, what you said. And I want to choose those three words. The first one is courage, because we have to believe in our ideas of changing. We have to believe that our new reimagined education system is really good for students and will help them develop as great personalities and skillful individuals that can make it, that can make a successful life in the future and can make and can change their communities to the better. So it takes some courage to win our old mindsets. Also, I want to put emphasis on community, because the pandemic showed us that the education system is really nothing without relationships between people, without support and without love, as was mentioned before. And this is what we should put our attention on. And the last one is personality, because school is not only about learning some random information and knowing some formulas or some dates, but also it's about developing and forming a personality of a student. And that what I believe should really matter in the reimagined education system. So that's it.
Thank you all for that. A powerful set of words. And to our audience on YouTube, I'm actually going to invite you over to the chat box. What are three words that stand out to you? And what are those three words for you? If you had to reimagine an education, what were the three words that would best define that? What we've heard from all of you are really powerful things, where if we could actually get a couple of those, we would be in a very good place, right? From love and courage to personality to purposeful and affirming. So many powerful things. Anjali, I'm intrigued by the three that you put: skilled thinkers, love, and grit. And I guess a question for you is that when you think about maybe an individual, a peer, somebody you went to school with, or even an institution, a school that you've heard about, that you've studied. I know you did a lot of studying of education over the past few years. That's actually leading into these three words that you've just described. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I think there are so many. I think everyone we heard speak yesterday, I think so many of our KER student leaders, I think just when I think of these three words, truly, I think they are just the 8 C's, kind of just, but extracted into three words. And in terms of specific institutions, I don't think I'm connected enough to the ground yet to answer that, but Design for Change comes to mind. The Philosophy for Children movement comes to mind. That's something I've read so much about. I was a philosophy major at college, and I think that was something that really stood out to me as a movement that allows children or encourages children to think philosophically, not learning about the history of philosophy, but just the process of philosophizing, of breaking down arguments, of really questioning their beliefs, their commitments, their values, being able to entertain an idea without necessarily accepting it. I think that was something that that's so important today as we think about fake news, as we think about political rhetoric that leans into prejudice. So I think those are some institutions that come to mind. And for student leaders, I think there are so many. I think of Greta, I think of Malala. Just several. But I'd love to hear what others have to say.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to move us forward a little bit. I'm going to switch topics, and we're about to get into countries across the world are preparing to reopen schools right now. Some have already opened. Some, like India, are just now starting to think about it, and others are in the process of preparing to open doors here in weeks. And if you could change how schools operate when they reopen doors, and let's say you could wave a magic wand to just change how schools operate, to lean more into the definitions that you all just put out there, what would you change about how schools operate? What would you change when schools reopen their doors? Seema, I'm going to invite you maybe to start us off, but would love to hear from as many of you as possible.
Yeah, I think perhaps what I would want to change is just the roles which are defined for the educator and the student. And I want to say both, because I think it's very easy to say that the role which is defined for the educator, it's very common rhetoric to say we need to change teachers' mindsets, especially in a country like India. And of course, we need to do that, right? So is the teacher's role to go through the curriculum and to assess the students, or is the teacher's role to really understand each student and create a positive learning environment for them? And then, what kids learn and how they learn comes into that later, right? So I think the very famous talk about, are you a factory worker or are you a gardener, right? When you think about your students, are your students someone who are going through a conveyor belt to all become the same end product, or are they individual flowers which bloom in very different ways? So of course, I think, how does the teacher change, how does that mindset change and their role change? But I think in that, I think the role of the student and how they perceive their role with respect to themselves and with respect to others as well. And I think when you asked Anjali the question about what institution comes to mind, I think what came to my mind, and I have two kids. I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I've often wondered whether, the last year and a half has been good for them or bad for them. And I think my conclusion is that it has been great for them, right? I think they have been forced to learn in many different ways. They have been forced to face with things that we didn't imagine they would, be forced to be faced with. They have learned how to entertain themselves inside four walls. They've learned to be better human beings to each other. They've learned to care about people, care about the world, care about the pandemic. And I think if we can sort of take some of those elements that, my kids have learned, and I'm sure kids around the world have learned, and bring that back into the classroom, that mindset, that would be amazing. So I think it's mindset in both places.
Yeah, really interesting take, Seema, on the effect of the pandemic. And before we move on to others, I just want to ask another question. You mentioned role of educator and role of student, and you would fundamentally change both of those. And you've done a lot of work in India over these last 2 decades with education, right? You've worked with state governments. You've done a lot of work with learning outcomes. When you think about your experience and what you've learned, what stands in the way of that? What stands in the way of that change that you've just described?
I think it's exactly what you're trying to do here, Sandeep. I think it's no one is willing to fundamentally have a conversation, like to pause and have a conversation about what education actually should be. I think it's not a difficult conversation, honestly. We're all people who've been through the education system, most of us, have kids, grandkids who experience education. So I think if you actually asked everyone to pause and sort of say what education should look like, I don't think you'll get different answers. I don't think if you brought in like the principal secretary or the education minister or anyone, a funder, to the table and said, think about what education should be like and what students should go through and what learning should be like, I don't think we will get very different words from the ones that the four of us have spoken about. But I think it's the ability to pause, to have this conversation, and to then sort of take those bold decisions. I think and somehow, unfortunately, I think while in the last year and a half, while we paused, I'm not sure I've seen enough of that conversation happen. I think we've been so consumed, fairly so, by how to continue learning, how to get digital content across to people, how to assess learning, how to make sure people are passing their boards and getting their marks, that we got consumed by other things, but not necessarily created the space for this reimagination conversation. But it's just a pause. I think that's all that's needed.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Seema. I would love to bring you in. I know you're a part of the Teach for All Student Council. You've been a part of many of these conversations that Seema is talking about what does it mean to reimagine education. But what would be your response to this? What would you change?
Yes, actually. So I'm looking from a perspective of a student. And as I was studying during the pandemic, I realized not only me, but the community, the whole community realized one important thing and one huge gap that we have in our current education system. Actually, we've been working with our laptops, we've been working with the internet to connect to each other and to learn. And as we were writing some tests, we would write in the open schools, we start thinking about those questions. What is the purpose of that test if I can just find the answers in the internet and so on? But I don't know how I can use this information in my real life, how I can use it outside the school and so on. And I think what we should learn from the pandemic, that soft skills really matter, and our education system should move towards developing students as personalities and as thinkers, and as we should develop their analytical thinking, as was mentioned by many of the panelists. We should move towards, we should change our approach to the purpose of education, who we want to rise. We want to rise the children who will pass all their exams and not knowing how it will be useful in their real life, or we want to rise competent adults which can find themselves in the life outside the school, that know what they should do in the life with all the knowledge they got in the schools. And actually people who can make relationships with the community that is surrounding them. So I think we should. So I think that the pandemic has just highlighted that we are striving to. We're striving to not really useful things, forgetting about what really matters and what is important for us as in future adults.
Thank you so much for that. It's crazy how shared our challenges are. That feels like the conversation that we need to be having right here in India as well. Wendy, you've been talking about this for a long time now. What comes to mind?
I first of all just resonate with what everyone's been saying. You were saying earlier, you were asking like, what is holding us back? And yeah. I honestly think it's everyone feels so much pressure, as you said, Seema, like to keep kids learning, to do what the system's telling us to do. And I do think we have had an opportunity, and I mean, it's for some been a good thing and for others been a really bad thing, but we have nonetheless stepped out of the traditional box as we know it. And I hope that we'll take advantage of that opportunity and not just go back in as it was. And I think it's going to take, honestly, it's going to take people. It could be students, it could be parents, teachers, educators, community leaders. It's going to take people in communities deciding that we are going to come together and reflect before we just go back as things have been, to ask ourselves, I mean, first and foremost, as everyone keeps coming back to, what are we trying to accomplish here? And, as you know, Sandeep, I mean, I think all of our work across Teach for All has led us to believe that, we need to be developing students as leaders who can shape a better future for themselves and all of us. But what does that mean in any given context? If we're developing students who can shape a better future for themselves, navigate a changing economy, and for all of us, solve increasingly complex problems in a particular community in Ukraine or in Mumbai, what does that mean exactly? And I think coming together collectively around that, and then many things will fall from that. We will reshape our mindsets. And I just want to also say, I think your point, Seema, about, also, I've been in the same room for, 18 months as my daughter, who's a middle school student. And she's just constantly coming in and saying, I wish they would just ask us, it's just so sad that the teachers feel that they need to do everything themselves. We keep saying, we can help you with the technology. Please ask us, and I think the kids are just so ready to contribute, especially now, now more than ever. And it's almost like the teachers are too busy and too under so much pressure that they won't stop to just say, sure, come help. And so I think that the principle of partnership that KER so brilliantly brings to life is just so crucial to get where we're trying to go.
Wendy, I'm going to follow up a little bit on the first part that you said, and I love that last point. I wish they would just ask us. And that connects also to what you were saying before, which is that there's a lot of people that need to come together, right? And I'd love to double click on that. Who in your mind are the people that need to be leading this change? And as a part of that, what we have to recognize is that we as people also need to be changing, right? To be changing with this. And so what do you think about those people actually also needs to change? And I'm asking you this because, your work for decades now has been centered on how do we get the right people, and how do we put people first? And so who are the people that need to be leading this change?
I think as you know, we talk so much about this notion of collective leadership. I think we need everyone, we need first and foremost students and families and educators and really, but also employers and the most respected elders in communities. We need the wisdom of everyone, and we need the divergent thinking, and the different perspectives that different folks will bring. And so I think the question is, who is the convener? Who can, and maybe it's a student or a group of students, and maybe it's a community elder, but whoever it may be in any given place to say, let's come together and reflect on, what is our vision for student success? What is the fundamental purpose? And then everything, we can rethink from there. Are we living into that? But I think that's so crucial as a starting point.
Yeah, I love that question. Who is the convener? Folks, over in our folks on YouTube, schools reopen. Tell us what you think. A lot of you before mentioned words like relevance and choice and empathy and interdependence. That's your definition of a reimagined education. Well, if you could articulate what would change as schools reopen, what would come to mind for you? Would love to hear from folks on YouTube with us as well. And while we hear from those, we only have a few minutes left. And Anjali and Liza, I'd actually like to close out with the question for both of you, as a student, Liza, and Anjali as a student who just graduated, who's now about to jump into the classroom. But what do you think is the role of kids in all of this? And what does the role of students need to be in all of this to be able to to make change happen? We heard Seema touch upon it a little bit earlier, but in your words, what needs to change about students and what's their role in driving change?
I can start, I think. I think students, as Wendy said, have immense power to really affect so many of the changes that everyone has just spoken about. I mean, everything that was just said very much resonates with me. Two, I would maybe add as concrete changes would be just an increased focus on SEL and trauma learning as we move back into classrooms, just with everything that's happened in the world. I think SEL was always important to cultivate, really important non-cognitive skills, but now particularly with all of the grief and pain that everyone has experienced. And so many schools do this, and I think many, but not enough. I think, like, for example, I worked at a school that made space for SEL every day, and it was so driven by students. There was a mental health council completely run by students, also for teachers. I mean, I thought it was really incredible the way that student leaders were leveraged here. Another thing that I was thinking would be investment in communities. That's something that I think has really happened a lot over the pandemic, especially when I think of TFI and fellows, as I've been, in the institute mindset. But what we're thinking right now during the pandemic is, what do our children need? What do our parents need? Like, what does it really take, and how can we work backwards? And when I think about investing in communities, I really think about student leaders in communities who can bridge that gap, and who know they know what they need, and can really be that that not just that voice, but also that force to help make that change. But Liza, I'd love to hear what you also think.
I just wanted to thank you for all your points, because I really can relate to them. And I want to go ahead with a point that students actually are an amazing guides for adults, because our core strengths as the group of stakeholders is that we were born in this contemporary world, and we know all modern priorities. We know we have our own experience while learning how to live in that new world. And actually, students are able to broaden adults' vision and to advise them what could be changed or what could be done better, because our thoughts are not based on our previous experience, like adults that were studying at schools decades ago, and they had different struggles from our own. But actually, students should be a really important part of the dialogue, because without them, this dialogue is actually, it cannot be continued, because it may just have a wrong direction and so on. But students are those who can change the direction and set it for adults, and that's why students have one of the most important roles in this dialogue and reimagining education at all.
I love that thought. And our thoughts are not based on struggles that were decades ago. They're based on today. And so students need to be advisors. They need to be a part of that dialogue. With that, we're actually gonna close this discussion. What a powerful thought to close this discussion on. Would love for everybody that's with us on YouTube to also be asking that question. What is the role that kids need to be playing? What's the role that adults need to be playing? And how do those two come together? Thank you all for this. Really appreciate you spending this this time with us and really appreciate this conversation that we hope to just continue from here. Thank you to the four of you. And I will hand this back over to the KER team now to take the next step.
Thank you, Sandeep.
you all.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much to all our panelists and our moderator, Sandeep Bhaiya. It was such a great conversation. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and really I could gain so strong insights on the reimagined education. And with this, we'll now move into a 5-minute break. We'll see you again at 5:05 p.m. Before that, through this break, we would love for all of you to answer the following question on chat. And it is, what is it that you audience, can do to reimagine education in your class, school, community, or country? We look forward to hearing from you on the chat. I'll be expecting you all to be back by 5:05, and then I'll be reading some few responses. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Hope you had the chance to stretch and maybe grab a cup of coffee and answer the question that I asked you previously. Here are some of the responses, and I'll be reading out them. So, one of the responses is by Anmol Oberoi, and which is changing by awareness through in person and social media. This looks very good to hear that people have really thought so beautifully on the question that I asked it. And there is Ankita Patil who says, I think in my online school classroom, I want to create a space about mental health where we will do meditation, share, and talk because it is really important for children currently in this pandemic. I truly agree to that. Then there is Ayushi who says, we have to help each other, only after then it is possible for all of us to walk in and on a stage together with a group of equal love and talent. I mean, this is just so beautiful that love is always one of the most important things. So with this excitement and this much energy, we'll now move to our next session, which is a live master class on New India and I curriculum. The India and I curriculum developed by Teach for India is grounded in the constitutional values of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, and it aims to build a 21st century skills and make citizens responsible and make the students responsible. I invite Hafsa Didi, who was a part of the co-design team of the curriculum, and the students of grade 10th, Government Girls Senior Secondary School, Delhi. Over to you, Hafsa Didi.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Koina, and hello to everyone who is watching this masterclass live. Before we jump into the lesson, I just wanted to share my excitement about the India and I curriculum. This curriculum was a work in collaboration. Many didis and bhaiyas spent many nights working on this curriculum. So if any of you are watching this live masterclass, congratulations to all of us. And with that, welcome students to our first India and I masterclass. As we join the class, I would request you all to switch your videos on if you can and go to the chat box and share how you're feeling right now. Ikra says she's curious. Hi Disha, hi Simran, hi Palak, hi Sanya. Liza's feeling fabulous. Simran's feeling joyful, excited. Oh my God, super excited. Okay, we're all excited, I can see. And with that excitement, let us begin today's class. So today we'll be exploring the big question, that is the news I access, the news that I read every day, that I hear every day. Is it reliable? Do I trust the news? With the lockdown and the pandemic last year, one thing that we've all come to rely on very heavily is the internet. And while that is, it's a great opportunity, we all can connect from our homes. It's a lot of information is also there on the internet. So today we will explore how much do we trust the sources through which we are getting our news. And with that, we did a little pre-work yesterday, where on the WhatsApp group, Didi shared this pre-work with you, and I read all of your incredible responses on that. Would love for one or two students to come off mute and share what was your observation on the first task when you asked your parents and the other adults around you where they got their daily news from. What were some of the common things you were hearing? Isha, Simran, Palak. Simran, go for it.
Am I audible?
Yes.
The common thing that I heard with people is TV. They all say TV and see news.
All right. So thank you so much, Simran. One common thing that we heard was news channels. Others, you can unmute yourself. You can also go to the chat box. What were the common things you heard? Where were people getting their news from? Mezzabeen, Kangna. Social media, Kangana said. Fiza said phone. Fiza, do you want to elaborate? Where
Can I tell?
Yes,
In internet they can, and in YouTube the channel come from news come, so that is update. So that's
excellent. Thank you, Mezzabeen. A lot of us are getting our news from the internet. And thank you for being specific, like YouTube. People watch videos and news articles read news videos on YouTube. Social media apps, society. That's a very interesting answer. So society, Geeta. Geeta, will you elaborate that for us, please? What do you mean by getting my news from society? Apps, television, video. Geeta, can you hear me? That was a very interesting response. Even in the WhatsApp images that all of you shared, somebody said, my mother gets the news from talking to my neighbors. Who was that? Or did anybody else hear similar things like this? That I get my news from talking to other people? Everybody's discussing news in the lane. Yes, Fiza?
Yes, Didi, when I go to my parents and ask them the question, so most of them, they said that we got the news from our friends when we go out, so they used to share with us. And they watch the TVs and newspapers so that they can get the news and share with everyone.
That is a very interesting point, Fiza. Thank you for sharing. And everybody else also, if you heard this, I wanted to make a connection. If you heard anybody say that, I talk to my friends or I talk to my neighbors, या सुन के मुझे न्यूज सी सुनाई देती है गली में. If that was something that you also heard, I wanted to make a note of that. And with that, we will quickly move on and play a little activity. So I summarized a lot of what we saw in the pre-work, that we are getting the news from WhatsApp, from newspapers, from YouTube, television, the internet, and our neighbors. These are the main sources, the places from where people in our community are getting their news. So the question that I want us to think is, but can I trust the news? The source that I'm getting the news from, do I trust it? Is it reliable? And in order to explore this question today, we are going to play a quick game. So in this game, you are going to be the principal of a school. Will somebody who is born in October unmute themselves and read what you can see on the screen? Or anybody who's born in July? Birthday किसी का जुलाई में है? Umra, yes. Umra, will you read what you can see on the map?
Yeah, Didi. Didi, can you hear me?
Yes, Umra.
Okay. Lunchroom fight. You are a principal who is trying to figure out the truth about lunchroom fight. The fight was between Seema and Neha. Seema is a new student. She is shy, quiet, and does not have many friends. Neha is a popular student who is known for satire and good humor. In the past few weeks, however, she has been withdrawn and somewhat depressed.
Thank you so much, Umra, for reading that so wonderfully for us. Is the scenario clear to everyone? You are a principal of a school and you have heard that there was a fight during lunch between two students. Who is Seema? Sorry, there's a spelling mistake there. Kangana, can you tell us who Seema is?
She's a new student.
She's a new student. And what kind of a student is Seema?
Quiet student. Shy and quiet.
Student. Shy and quiet student. Thank you, Kangana. Chinky, who was the fight between Seema and?
Neha.
Neha. And what kind of a student is Neha? Popular student. She's a popular student. She's friendly. She's funny. But in the past few weeks, she's been a little sad. That's what you know. Okay, you as a principal, you were not there. You do not see why this fight happened. So now you have to find out. You have to find out why did the fight happen. What is the first thing? What is the first thing that you want to do? You can take 30 seconds to think. Go to the chat box and share. You can also unmute yourself. If the principal of a school, a fight has happened. 2 students have fought. You were not there. What can you do? Nazmeen, Medhu, Geeta, Anjali. Anybody?
Can I say?
Yes, go for it.
So we say to other student who is there in surrounding of there is fighting. So from there we say principal say who was talking what is the problem that they are fighting.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mezabeen. Mezabeen will go and talk to other students. Simran said she can check the camera. There's a camera in school. Very interesting footage. Madhu will also ask other students. Alvina, you wanted to speak? Please share. And Nazmeen, then you can share next. Alvina? Yes, Fiza. Girls don't ask you, just unmute and share or type it.
I think we should talk to both the fight was between them, like Seema and Neha. We would talk both of them so that they can put what they think and what happened from their side. Because I believe that as a human, we never notice our mistake. So I think we should talk to both of them, then other students.
Great point. Who was this? Sorry, I couldn't see your name. Who just answered? Fiza. Thank you so much, Fiza. Very interesting point. Fiza said she will talk to both of the students who were in the fight. We said we'll talk to everybody else. And that is exactly what we are going to do. We are going to talk to a few students. We're going to talk to other people as the principal and find out why this fight happened. Okay. So there are 2 questions that I want you to think of. You can quickly note it down in your book or take a picture or just remember these 2 questions. Do I trust this source? So we are going to go talk to different students now to find out why this fight happened. So as you talk to this student, I want you to think about, do I trust this source of information? If yes, then I want you to tell me why. Why do you trust this source? If no, then I want you to tell me why don't you trust this source? Is that clear? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you've understood the instructions? All right. Thank you, Simran. Thank you, Kangana. Thank you, Bra. Thank you, Mezabeen, Chinky. All right. So quickly, we'll move forward because I'm very excited to share the first student we're going to talk to as the principal. We're going to talk to Seema. Okay, remember the fight was between Seema and Neha. So the first student we're talking to is Seema. Who wants to read out what Seema is telling us? Somebody quickly. Palak, you want to read? Ishika? Yes. Kangana? Anybody?
That girl started it, Neha. I was just standing in line and she pushed me for no reason. I don't even know her. She and her friends stared at me in English class.
All right. So Seema is saying that Neha started it. Seema is the new student. She's saying Neha started it. They were standing in line and she pushed me for no reason. I don't even know her. She just stares at me. So this is the first source of information we have. Do you trust Seema? Do you think Neha did it? Yes or no?
Yes.
Here are some thoughts. Who said yes?
Excuse me. Excuse me, I can't understand the Rosni say what's not did.
All right. Mezabeen, can you see this slide? Can you see the screen that I'm sharing? You can, so you can read it. It's on the slide. Everybody, if you can see the slide, it's written there as well. So take maybe 30 seconds to read it. And then tell me, do you trust Seema that Neha has done the fight? We should punish Neha. Do you agree? You trust the source? Yes. If yes, tell me why. If no, tell me why not. Simran, you're raising your hand. You can start. Simran?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Didi, Seema said this, but we should listen Neha also, no?
Yeah, okay. We should meet Neha. Interesting point, Simran. I'm Medhu is saying I trust Seema. Nazmeen is saying I trust Seema. Fizza is also saying I think Seema is saying the truth. Can I hear some people who are saying yes? Why do you trust Seema?
Can I?
Yes.
I think Seema, because like in previous slide there was written Seema was quiet and shy girl. So I think for her habit and for her feelings, I think she can't able to do this thing. I think.
All right, very interesting point. We are seeing some people who are trusting Seema right now because we know she's a quiet and shy girl. But some people are saying let's talk to Neha. Some people are also saying no in the chat box. So let us talk to Neha. Yeah, let's talk to Neha and see what she has to say. Who wants to? I will quickly be Neha because we are running a little late. All right, so we are talking to Neha right now. And Neha is saying that girl is crazy. Me and my friends were just standing in line, joking around, and she turned around and punched me for no reason. Ask anybody. So Neha, the other girl, the fight between the two people who the fight happened, she's saying that only me and my friends were standing. We were joking around. And she just turned around and punched me for no reason. You can ask anybody. What do we do now? Are we? Neha's lying. Okay. All right. So we are feeling like Seema is telling the truth. Can I answer, Umra? Yes. Umra?
Yes, Didi. So Didi, I think that Neha is lying because as we all are human, I don't think that Seema will punch friends unnecessary or without any reason. So I think Neha is lying, and since she is a famous girl of the school, so everyone will with her, and no one will support.
All right. All right, Umra, thank you for sharing. So I want you to just take 30 seconds right now and share either make a note in your head or go to the chat box and say which source are you trusting right now more and why. Right now we're trusting Seema more. I can see that's a trend, but make an individual answer. So go to the chat box and just write which source are you trusting the more and why. Let's do this in 10 seconds. And then there is going to be a twist, which I'm very excited to share with all of you. So quickly go to the chat box and share right now. Who do you trust? We think Seema started the fight. Okay. All right. With that, now we're going to go on to the next interview. Actually, as the principal, you heard Seema, you heard Neha. We are going to go talk to one more person. This is Seema's mom. Yeah. So I'm going to read now what Seema's mother is telling us. Seema's mother is saying that she's the sweetest girl. She had a hard time joining a new school, but she would never start a fight. She takes tuitions for younger children and she helps out her community. So now you've called Seema's mother to school and you've spoken to Seema's mommy also. Seema's mom is saying, you can read on the slide, she's a very sweet girl. She's had it's a new school, so she's having a tough time, but she would never start a fight. She's very nice with other children. She takes tuitions and helps people in her community. So do you trust Seema's mother? Yes or no? Go to the chat box and share. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Anybody who's thinking no? Anybody who thinks that no, actually, I don't think Seema's mother is a good source? Okay, Umra is saying in full caps lock, I will support Seema. Simran is saying no. Simran, you want to share your thoughts? Why are you saying no?
Yes, Didi. Because our mother is also.
Simran, your voice is breaking. Can you share on the chat box, please?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Do am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Didi. Didi, Seema's mother, our mother always support us.
Very interesting point. Very interesting point, Simran. Simran, thank you for sharing. If you ask Seema's mummy, she will obviously say, "My daughter is very nice. She will not start a fight," isn't it? Think about it. As the principal of the school, will you only, if two students are fighting and आप सिर्फ एक की मम्मी से बात करो, the mummy तो will always say, my daughter is very nice. She doesn't fight with anybody, isn't it? So then now you've spoken to the students, you've spoken to Seema's mummy. Now you're going to talk to Lata's, Neha's friend. Okay. We're going to talk to Neha's friend and see what she has to say. Neha's friend is saying that the new girl definitely started it. The new girl, Seema, she definitely started it. She just attacked us out of nowhere. We were standing in the line, we were cracking jokes. She just turned around and attacked us. She thinks she's better than everybody else. Usko thoda ghumand hai. This is what Lata is now telling you. Lata is Neha's friend. Do you trust Neha's friend? Kangana is saying no. Why, Kangana? Ishika is also saying no. Tell me why. Tell me why. Remember the question?
Because she's a shy girl, so why she thinks that I'm the better one.
Okay. Remember the question we are answering is, do you trust this source? Yes or no, and why? I want you to also tell me why, students, with your answer. Nazmeen is saying she will always support her friends. Friends will always side with their friends. Neha is popular, so her friends are taking her side. Very interesting. I think we should ask somebody on Seema's side. Neha is her friend, so she's supporting her friend only. So now we are confused. Now we'll talk to this person, this person, this person, this person. They will always take each other's side. Now how do we find out? How do we find out who started the fight? We are stuck now. We are the principal of the school. These two students have fought and everybody's blaming each other only. Her friends are saying she, her friends are saying her. How can we find out who started the fight? Fiza, very interesting point. Teachers, tell me why. Tell me why do you want to ask teachers? CCTV cameras we don't have, unfortunately, in our school. So we can't do that. But
can I tell?
Yes, go for it.
Because in class, teacher is study, he is student. So teacher see who is a good girl or who is not good student. So that's why the teacher say.
Okay, so Mezzabeen and Fiza saying we'll ask teachers because teachers know the students. But is it possible sometimes you also think about it? You know, there are two students. One is a very naughty, angry student, and one is a very quiet student. But sometimes a quiet student can also get angry, and punch somebody or get into a fight.
Yes.
But if the teacher wasn't there, maybe the teacher will also have a judgment. Ishika, very interesting point. Elaborate, please. Ishika said, auntie that who gave lunch. Tell us, Ishika, what you mean by that?
दीदी आंटी भी तो वही होगी ना लंच दे रही होगी वो
Very interesting. There will be somebody else who is not their friend there, who we can ask what happened. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to talk to a student from another class, and let's see, and we will talk to the lunch Didi. Okay. So let's see we are talking to Nandini now. We've called Nandini in the office and we're asking her, she's in another class, what happened? So Nandini is saying, I was far back in the line. Neha and her friends were being very loud. They were joking. I couldn't really hear what they were saying. The next thing I saw, suddenly people were like separating Neha and Sneha. Neha and Seema. And the lunchroom Didi, she's telling you that the group of girls were just, playing, pushing around. I think it was an accident. One of them pushed the new girl by accident and she took it the wrong way. And that's why the fight started. So I'm going to put this up on the screen for another 10 seconds. I want you to read it. I again what the lunchroom Didi said. The group of girls were pushing each other around. I think it was an accident. And one of them pushed into the new girl and she took it the wrong way. This is what the Didi who was giving the lunch is saying. Now, out of all of the sources, which source do you trust the most and why? Yes, Fida?
Didi, I would trust this source because this is not in part of anyone. Like they are in middle. They will not take side of Nandini and nor Seema. So I think this is the right one.
Yeah. So a lot of us are thinking that we trust the lunchroom Didi because she is not friends with any of the students. She will not take sides. Now I want you to think about what the activity that we just did. It was so important for us to talk to different people. Imagine if you are the principal and the lunchroom fight happened and you just talk to Seema and you just talk to Neha and then you punish one of them. You don't talk to anybody else. Do you think you would have made the right decision?
No.
Why? Why? Everybody go in the chat box who's saying no, tell me why, and one person can maybe unmute. Palak, you want to tell us why?
Excuse me, Di.
Mezabin, will like Palak share?
Yes. I think because giving if Seema didn't do anything, so giving her also punishment is not good. So we have to know that who did it.
Yeah. So with this, I want to highlight. I want somebody to tell me why is it important as a principal for you to talk to different people? You could have just spoken to the two girls. Why did you talk to the lunchroom Didi? Why did you talk to the other friends? Why didn't you just ask the girls, "Arey, kya hua? Kisne jhagda kiya? Tell me." Yes, Fiza?
Didi, I think the teacher, the principal is asking other people as well because like it happens now that sometimes we take some wrong decisions. So if the like how should I say, अगर कोई बेगुनाह को सजा मिल जाए, that is not right ना. So that's why I think she is asking other people.
Yeah. All right. Geeta has shared, because it's really difficult to say what is truth and what is not true without checking. So you were checking with other people if the source is true. And that is why I think it is very important. I want to connect this to the pre-work that we did, where we were looking at news sources. Can anybody see a connection between this activity and the news sources activity?
Yes, Didi.
Please share.
Didi, we should not believe on the news that which we don't like, which is not right. We should take others' opinions as well, so that with that news can become right.
Yeah. Any other connection? Is anybody else making a connection between the pre-work we did and this activity that we did right now? The importance of multiple sources. Sanya, Umra, yeah, go for it. One last response. Girls, quickly, you have 10 minutes. Umra, don't think, just answer.
Yes, Didi.
Yes.
So, Didi, I think that we only need to believe on the news that we heard by our own ears. We don't need to believe on any other news because it may be the truth also, but the same as fake also. So, we just need to believe on our ears, and if we are like listening any news, so we need to search it before we like हम उससे पहले फैला दें, उससे पहले we need to search and get information about it.
That's a very important point Umra has made. Not only that we need to check the news that we read and listen to, but we also need to confirm it before we go tell 10 other people. Imagine if I've heard some news that's also wrong, and then I will go tell 10 other people on WhatsApp because it's so easy now, then so much false information will spread. So it's so important for us also to check before we share it with the world. I know there are many responses, but we are running a little late. So I just want to do one quick activity with you before we close this class out. I'm going to show you some sources. This is news related to coronavirus. And I will tell you where I got this information from. So either I got it from the news, newspaper, internet, WhatsApp. I will show you where I got it from. I want you to tell me if you trust this same activity. If you trust this source, yes, then tell me why do you trust it. If no, then tell me why don't you trust it. Yeah, everybody, I want you to answer in the chat box and then I will cold call. Okay. Okay. Very quickly, same two questions. Do you trust this source? If yes, why? If no, why not? All right. The first news source is from news channels, from the TV news channels. You can read the headline in Hindi. कोरोना जिहाद से देश बचाओ. Now in the chat box, I want you to tell me if you saw this on the news, would you trust this news source? It's coming in news channels on TV. Do you trust this? Yes. Then yes, tell me why. If no, tell me why not. Alvina saying no. Alvina, please tell us why. Why don't you trust this source? Sania
because
saying
Didi, many news channels can be fake and we cannot able to trust anyone. They can tell us lie as well to grow their population.
Yes. So one point you shared is they do this to increase the audience. So what do we do then? Should I watch the news and not trust anything that's coming on the TV? What can I do? Because I get my news, I watch news channel to get news, but they're saying all this. So what do I do? Do I trust the news? Do I not trust the news? I'm seeing some no's. Can somebody tell me who sees yes? Disha saying yes. Sania saying yes. Can you tell us why you're saying yes? I want somebody to tell me who will believe this, or somebody. Okay, you can. No, Didi. You have Sania. Tell us why. Why will you trust on this? Fake. They show fake news for TRP. Can I say why not? Nazmeen, yes, please chat. Put it on the chat box. Or just unmute yourself and also share. Disha, go for it.
Yes, Didi. I think we should trust on this because Didi, lots of news channels also have a proofs and some research. So we should also have to proof on this news.
Okay, very interesting point that news channels do some research. Unka kaam hai news batana. So if I watch the news, I don't trust the news, and where will I get my news from? So we are confused. Some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. Geeta is saying we can only trust when we see from our eyes and ears. But Geeta, sometimes we are not everywhere. That's why we need the news. No, if in the news they're telling me this is how much the coronavirus is spreading, this is where you can go take a vaccination, then I want to trust that news also because I don't know the numbers. So I'm a little confused with this. Let's see another source and see what we think about that. This is from the WHO website. Actually, before this, I want to let's do this one before. This is a WhatsApp message. This is a WhatsApp message that I got on WhatsApp. Somebody sent this to me saying that if you can hold your breath for 10 seconds, then you don't have coronavirus. I got this on WhatsApp. Will you trust this? Yes or no? Let's go in the chat box quickly. This is another WhatsApp message I got that said, if you want to increase your immunity from coronavirus, have black tea with some good for 3 days. I'm seeing a lot of no's, but I'm not seeing any whys. Please tell me why. Go to the chat box, everybody, Disha, Simran, Palak, Sania, Anjali, and tell me why. Palak, tell us why you won't trust this.
Because Didi, people are doing this because they want that more people will see their messages too, and they will
they will doing these kind of messages because they are also getting it from somewhere, and they believe and they'll send that they will also not get coronavirus, so they will also see it.
Yeah. This on WhatsApp, anybody can write anything. You know, WhatsApp, it's so easy to write anything and forward it. How do I know it's true? I have to cross check it. It's possible that somebody can send me a real news article also, but it's so important for me. Like the principal, when I was checking, I asked 2-3 students, and that's how I made a decision as a principal. Even in real life, I might get a message on WhatsApp and I might see something on the news, but I have to check if this information is real. If news में भी बोल रहे हैं, WhatsApp पे भी है, internet, YouTube पे भी, everywhere it is the same thing, then I can trust it. I have to search, but one more example I want to share here. This is a news article from the NDTV website that is saying that the coronavirus cases in Kerala are coming down. This is from the NDTV website. Do you trust this source? Yes or no? So the last question, I want everyone to go in the chat box and share. From the NDTV website, this is an article that says the Kerala coronavirus cases are going down. I want you to answer the why question also. Why, if you trust it or don't trust it. Simran? Nazmeen is saying she'll search on Google. Chinky will also search on Google. Very interesting point, Alvina. People who is giving money to the newspaper advertisement. So we have to, that's why I always check, cross-check from where.
We say, excuse me, we can see in YouTube also because we can research them.
Yeah. So here the very important point I want to leave you with is not that we cannot trust the news. Just like when we were talking to the students, we had to talk to 2-3 students to understand what actually happened because we were not there. Similarly, with the news, we have to fact check. If just because one website is saying it doesn't mean it's true. Or just because you got a WhatsApp message doesn't mean it's true. Or just because somebody told you in your gully, in your neighborhood, you know, my friend told me that kuch ho raha hai kahin pe. I can't believe it. I have to cross check on the internet. And that is the very important thing with news. There might be fake news, there might be real news, but it's important for us to verify from different sources. With that, I want to do a quick closing question with all of you. Can I ask Disha to read the first question for us?
Okay, Didi. Is the news you and your family members read is reliable?
Okay. So I want to bring back to the pre-work that we did, where you thought about where your family is getting the news from. And I want you to take a minute and reflect. That is my family, the news that we're getting from, do I trust those sources? So if my parents said that we get news from WhatsApp, do I trust the news source? Or if my parents said that, you know, we get news from the newspaper or the television, do I trust that source? I want you to think about that reflection question. The other 2 questions I want you to think about is, and we'll share the responses on WhatsApp. And maybe some of you can share it right now as well. What are some things you can do to verify the news? So tomorrow, if somebody tells you the gully, somebody tells you something you see on the news, you read on the internet, what are some things that you will do to verify, to check if this news is real or not, to confirm, like Medhu said? And what are going to be some news sources that you trust? Okay, if I get my news from here, I know, okay, yes, sahi, this will be right.
We can see newspaper, TV, internet, Google, these things. And we, to who is big from so that from there we can see.
Okay, thank you, Mezzabin. But also remember, sometimes even big people believe in fake news. So it is very possible that some adult around you read something on WhatsApp and they said, "Kali chai piyo, coronavirus nahi hoga." And you have to tell them, where did you hear this? What is the source? Please tell me. I will go check. So sometimes you will have to tell people. Yeah?
Yes.
All right. Let's take the last 2-3 minutes and share our responses to the questions in the chat box. What are some things that you can do to verify the news? And what are going to be some news sources that you trust? In the meantime, if anybody from the audience at this point has questions for the students or for the teachers, you can share that on the chat box and maybe Devisha can share it with us. But thank you, students, for engaging in today's class. I want you to take a note of these questions and share your response on the WhatsApp group. And next time, whenever you get the news from, I hope you will think about the source. And yeah, Didi will see you tomorrow for the next India and I Masterclass. Thank you.
Okay, Didi, thank you.
Thank you so much, Hafsa Didi and my friends from Delhi. I mean, and to the entire team who built this curriculum. I mean, it was so great. I mean, I personally learned so many things, and one thing is for sure that it's not necessary that we should believe in the newspaper and at times Wikipedia as well. Question them that how did you come to know about this particular fact. I mean, it's really awesome. We as persons, as individuals, should be aware of what's happening around. So yeah, that is it. Now we'll go for a short 2-minute break, like just stretch, and then if you want to have some water, go have it. You want to use your restrooms, use it. And until then, I'll ask you a question, and if you could respond to that in the chat box, it would be really great. So the question that I wanted to ask is, what is the most important thing for you in a classroom? According to you, what is the most important thing? Please shoot your responses in the YouTube chat box, and we'll read it out. We'll read few responses, and it would be great, I'm sure. Until then, I can definitely share what I would expect in my classroom. And the most important thing for me, it's really important to have a safe space. As a student, it's really important to have a safe space in the classroom, and also like maybe as an educator or as a helper as well. I guess even they need to have a safe space, a space where they feel the belongingness and they feel the safety. So yeah, that is it from my end. People, if you can share your responses in the chat box, that would be really great.
We are living in a world that needs to change. We have found our voice, we know we have a choice. Our little light is shining bright. We're all made of stars, and the future's ours. Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for. We can put our broken world back together. We're diamonds in the rough, we can be wise and tough. You try to bury us, but we are seeds. We won't be shy or scared.
Rise up when the times are tough. We gotta rise up when we're out of luck. We gotta rise to the occasion, chase the equation, make sure that we help raise education. To every student in the world, this is your creation. What we do now is a gift for generations to come. So don't let them tell you that we're done, cause we're just getting started, so tell them we've just begun. Yeah.
Just watch us shine, maybe it's wrong, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's diversity. We are the ones we are waiting for. We are the ones we are waiting for.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. So before going for a break, I asked you all a question. What is the most important thing for you? So I guess I told already that for me it's safety. And I can see a lot of people commenting on the YouTube chat box saying that love, equality, the spaces should be more interactive, and it's very beautifully said by Devanshi Malhotra. A compassionate safe space. I feel a compassionate safe space really describes it perfectly, right? That you should have a safe space, but you also need to be compassionate. And I also think that when we talk about a safe space, compassion is just there because we are being careful and protective maybe. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. These responses were just so awesome. Now I just want to thank you so much, and with this we'll move forward to another thing. Have you ever wondered what the world looks like if every young person fought for what they believed in? Let's hear this from my fellow revolutionary Haley from America, who shares about her journey of organizing a Black Lives Matters protest in her city. So welcome, Haley.
One of the inevitable truths in life is that conflict is cruel and unfair. Like when you wake up in the morning and check the news and your country's in the headlines, and more often than not, it's for a bad reason. Recently, the world has seen as India struggles with the impact of coronavirus. And perhaps last summer, you remember seeing the United States in the news for its own long existing illness. But let me back up for a second and introduce myself. My name is Haley Valdez. I'm a student in the United States. And last year, I was actually at KER in person. Now, clearly, this year is different. The world has changed and it's challenged us all, some more than others. Sometimes we have control over the events happening in the world, and other times, like during a pandemic, we have very little control. It's easy to feel powerless. And so this is where I found myself last summer, at the peak of the Black Lives Matter demonstrations in America. I understand that this issue may not feel particularly connected to your life, but I still think you can gain something from learning how I was able to inspire change, and how even when we feel deprived of power and completely defeated, young people have the ability to keep the world moving. So this story began on a hot summer night when I found myself tossing and turning and completely frustrated over the events happening in the country. Then my phone light turned on and I reached for it to read my notification. One of my friends was expressing her own anger and pain, after which we created a group chat with a few of our peers. We spent the rest of that night talking about how we felt powerless and we didn't know how to deal with all of the pain that we were experiencing. I vividly remember when my friend said she wanted to do something and how I felt the urgency in each of her messages. The next morning, we emailed some of our teachers and began the process of preparing for a protest. If I'm being completely honest, I thought we would keep talking, but never actually go through with this. I mean, we had just graduated high school, and at this point in my life, the most important thing I had done was decide to go to college. But this decision felt different. And with each email and conversation and outreach, it really started to unfold. What you don't see when you see protests is the amount of work going on behind the scenes, weeks before the protest even takes place. However, we didn't have weeks. We wanted to send our message as soon as possible. We had a week to do something none of us had ever done before, to speak up about an issue that was getting people hurt and killed all over the country, to show our community that we cared, and the pressure was on. I couldn't help but feel like if we failed, no one would take us seriously. They would think even less of the message we were trying to send. I was scared of the consequences, especially knowing how many activists had gotten arrested, shot by rubber bullets, pepper sprayed, attacked by dogs, and countless other brutal attacks. This was terrifying, but it was important. It was important that the world saw that each of us, no matter our age, color, gender, or beliefs, has a voice and is worthy of living. And so we were determined to have a successful protest. The 5 of us split up the work that was necessary, and of course, we had the guidance of our educators in making sure no detail was left forgotten. We began by deciding on a location. We would march from our high school all the way onto the highway where cars sped by like lightning. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried about being hit by a car. Because we were going to shut down ongoing traffic, we also knew that we could get arrested. Luckily for us, our connections also came with lawyers and donations for bail money. At this point, I want to make it clear that I'm not encouraging anyone to blatantly break laws. That's not the point. The point is that America had gotten to a point where these kinds of actions were the only ones getting the attention of people in power. And this was a sacrifice I was willing to make. All of these worries stayed on my mind as we did the work we had each chosen. One of my peers focused on the social media aspect of this work. In fact, he was also at KER last year. With the same urgency that he spoke on last year's stage with, he created a logo for our campaign, which we called Denver Metro Black Lives Matter. The design, a raised fist against the vibrant hues of a Colorado sunset, also displayed the tall buildings and full mountains of the state. It reminds me of how our communities aren't just made up of their landscapes or places on a globe. They're made up of people and the values those people hold. For as long as I've known, all I wanted was to be in a place where people cared about each other and stood up for each other. I think about all of the wonderful work that you've all done and the relationships that are fostered at KER, focused on love and respect. That was what I wanted for my community. And in order to achieve this, another one of my friends focused on actually getting people to the protest. Not only did this include consistency with our Instagram and Facebook pages, but it also meant personally reaching out to the people we knew. Classmates, neighbors, family friends, leaders, teachers, everyone that was a part of our community was on the list of people we encouraged to join us. We were aware that we were facing the extra challenge of leading the protests in the middle of a pandemic, and many people wouldn't show up because they were sick or wanted to avoid contamination. At this point, we were scared that we would completely fail. This is how I felt until the morning of the protest, when I received a very exciting phone call. You see, I had my own role in this protest, making connections that would lead to big impact. I used all of my connections and spent the week writing emails to newspapers, leaving voicemails to news stations, and having meetings with activists in the area. And let me just tell you, it is really scary to reach out to important people when you're young. I was scared that people wouldn't take me seriously, that I didn't have the skill set or the training to be doing this kind of outreach. So you can imagine my relief when newspapers actually got back to me. They interviewed my fellow organizers and me and wrote articles about the work we were doing. As we got close to the day of, an ad popped up in the local newspaper about our protest. The news of our event was actually circulating. I couldn't have been happier. That is, until I got the phone call. As I mentioned earlier, I had reached out to news stations in hopes of getting some coverage. When I answered the phone, I was shocked to hear that a television news station was sending out a crew to follow us through the entire protest. Like the professional that I had become during that week, I kindly thanked them and phone call. But as soon as it was over, I screamed and immediately told my friends. They were equally as excited, and everything felt like it was falling into place. There were other challenges along the way, like the fact that I literally had to sneak out of my house, because even under one roof, there can be so many disagreements about the problems in the world. I'm aware that I keep sounding like a terrible influence, and I don't want you to think that any of my actions were without reason. I just want you to know that sometimes systems are unfair and change can be messy, but young people really do have the ability to transform the world into a fairer place. Finally, it was time. It was a particularly windy and gray day in Colorado, and the parking lot of our school was completely empty. I was starting to feel a little hopeless again. What if no one showed up and we had no message to send? What if people did show up and we got arrested? It is an understatement to say that I was worried. But eventually someone showed up, and then a few more people, and then the space was completely full. Familiar faces and unfamiliar ones moved through the crowd, and even moved for cover when the windstorm hit us. It sounds like I'm just an insanely dramatic person, but a literal storm hit us. This is a failure, I thought. People are going to leave. It feels like the world is against us. These thoughts tormented me as wind and dust and rain fell all around us, like in the movies when the world is ending. Except it didn't end. The sky cleared up, the sun came out, and before I knew it, we were on the move. Like a giant wave of sound and color, we marched, chanting Black Lives Matter, and this is what democracy looks like. Cars stopped, people on sidewalks cheered, helicopters flew over us, capturing the moment. And then we got to the highway, where police cars were already redirecting traffic and glaring at us intensely. We spoke, we laid on the floor screaming, "I can't breathe," and we cried, because death is overwhelming, injustice is overwhelming, and powerlessness is overwhelming. And it's okay to feel defeated, as long as you get back up and keep working towards the change you wish to see. I'll never forget how terrifying it was to put this together, knowing that there would be backlash, but it is still the single most important thing I've done. When I think back to my life last February, as I was in KER in India, I can't help but think about how much has changed. Movements have started, disaster has struck, and you're seeing this on a screen instead of a stage. But the message remains the same. Youth is powerful. All over the world, we continue to speak up and stand up when we see injustices. Last summer, I felt angry and sad, but I didn't think there was much I could do to help. I can't believe we were able to do something so significant almost entirely alone. And when you need help, look to the people who believe in you and encourage you to achieve what you dream of doing, just like we did. This is what made our vision possible. I also can't help but think about the struggles that you're all facing, whether they're related to the pandemic, education, systemic issues, or your own personal lives. There is no issue that you can't challenge when you set your mind to it. I've learned that while one of the inevitable truths about life is how unfair and painful experiences can be, they can always be defeated with the powerful combination of youth, courage, community, and a whole lot of passion. Thank you.
Should I go? Thank you so much, Haley. I mean, I just feel so inspired seeing and knowing that regardless of the consequences, which Haley was already aware of, she just did it. I mean, she just did it so powerfully and so strongly. In her speech, I could see that dedication and the motivation so strongly. And also, she just said it so beautifully that this was a sacrifice that I was willing to make. I mean, for me, it really takes a lot of strength to do so or even say so. And Haley just demonstrated her C for courage in such a mind blowing way. And with such a wonderful day with you people, I will now just hand it back to Kritika Didi and Soumya for the closing of the day. Also, thank you for being a part of this session stage. Over to you, Kritika Didi and Soumya.
Thank you so much, Koina, and welcome back, everyone. Hope you had an exciting day too at KER Week. Soumya, what was your favorite part of the day?
I think my favorite part would have been Haley's talk, because I know Haley and she's such an inspiring change maker. But since I was facilitating one of the sessions, I think just having so many discussions and having so many reflections come up was by far the most favorite part of the day.
Thank you. I think my favorite part was the India and I masterclass. I mean, you should have seen the kids engage with such rich content that I truly believe will make our kids into responsible citizens. Now, before we move on to practice Mr. Consciousness, I, on behalf of the KER team, would love to just thank our facilitators for today. Teams from We the People, Outlawed, Count Us In, Seeds of Peace, Indus Action, Youth Alliance, and Museum of Solutions. We would also like to express gratitude to our supporter, RISE. RISE is building a global community of extraordinary 15 to 17-year-olds who need opportunity and offering support for life as they use their talents to serve others, including scholarship, mentorship, and more. You can join the RISE movement at the link shared in the chat box. And now I'm going to hand it over to Soumya, who's going to really help you synthesize the experiences that you've had over the course of today. Over to you, Soumya.
Thank you so much, Kritika Didi. Once again, a huge thank you to everyone who made today's KER Week days so successful and possible. And since we've gone through so many different sessions, so many different pieces of information, let's just take a few minutes to reflect on our day so far. And feel free to reflect in whichever way feels authentic and genuine to you, whether it might be a silent contemplation or it might mean putting it on the chat box for us. I personally would encourage you to put it on the chat box and let us also know what you learned throughout the day. So the first question for our reflection today would be, what new ideas, sparks, or learnings are you leaving with today? Just take your time and reflect in a way which feels authentic to you. Has shared with us that she loved the class today. It was very awesome, brilliant, and wonderful. Thank you, Mehak. Really glad to see you enjoying the KER Week. Jacinta Raja says that the importance of safe space for students and awestruck by the resilience of students. agree with Jay Shri Pillai. New idea is that to never underestimate children. If given the right conditions, they can bring out solutions to even bigger problems. Now, the second question we would really love for you to reflect on is what is your role in solving problems we face in education as a global community? Again, an invitation for you to share it in the chat box and yeah, reflect on the day to day. Soumya Pathak says safe spaces, creating them, being a facilitator and a coach, and extending compassion and creativity to others. Naz Khan says that they will make sure the classes go on, and whether for learning or teaching, it would be really great with the participation of both the educators and the students. I'm seeing so many lovely reflections. And for the last, and the third and the last reflection for today is 2 C's you wish for India and the world to embody. Again, an invitation to come down in the chat box and let us also know what you're thinking. Again, seeing so many lovely reflections. Again, reflections don't have to end here. You can take it ahead and keep reflecting, bring up new questions, synthesize the session for yourself, and also see what learning sparks are you taking back with you. And with this, Kritika Didi, do you want to take over?
Thank you, Soumya. And thank you everyone for sharing your responses on the chat. It's just so beautiful to see the diversity of experiences everyone has gone through over the course of today. Now we are almost towards the end of day 2 of KER week. So I would love for you to take out 5 minutes today to fill and submit your feedback form for day 2. You can find the link to the form on the chat. And as soon as you fill the form, you will directly receive your certificate of participation for today. We will also be sharing resources from the sessions today and more as part of our KER library, so that if there are any sessions that you missed today or you really wanted to attend, you still get a chance to explore them. So you will receive the KER library with those resources and with the links to the sessions you have signed up for day 3, which is tomorrow. Speaking about day 3, Soumya, I am already so excited and can't wait to meet our speakers and facilitators for tomorrow. What are you most excited about?
I have signed up for the 5th Reimagined classroom, and I'm really, really excited for it just to hear students and educators talk.
I am really looking forward to start our day with the inspiring Sonam Wangchuk and explore what change can look like on a school and community level with organizations like Reap Benefit, Umeed, with speakers like Alex Beard and more. But Soumya, is today already over? Aren't we missing something?
Oh yes, the most awaited spaces of KER week, the community building spaces.
Exactly, my favorite part of the week. We are going to start our community spaces in the next 15 minutes. So head to those spaces to connect with more change makers. You can stay here on the live stream if you wish to attend KER Chronicles. We have 4 exciting performances lined up and lots to look forward to, like poetry and some more stories of inspiration. Or if you have signed up for Chat for Change by Outlawed, then go to the Zoom link in your inbox and head to the Zoom room. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Soumya and I will meet you tomorrow at the same time and same place.
We all know that a lot of stuff that is going on in school is really not useful for life, right? Whereas a lot of stuff which is useful for life has not found its way in school.
So many students were not able to get education, or not able to afford school, or not able to go to, or not able to find a safe space.
So when you actually sit down in a safe space and have a reflective session with a bunch of people who are leading a district, you see that they didn't enjoy their education themselves. They were beaten as children. They were never given voice.
I think so many of us share a dream vision for an education system in the future that is really distinct from the past. We have dreams for teaching and learning that is more life-affirming, less rote, more human.
We want students to speak up.
School doesn't ask students while taking any decision, right? But we want to say that student is the main stakeholder of that school. So students should be asked for the decisions.
And I started to work with my Teach for Armenia teacher, and we make together movie club. And it is space where every and each person is equal with each other. And
so one of our teacher, Snehal Didi, she got through us, and we came up with a project called the Project Kaleidoscope.
You breathe in this very polluted air that says that educators should have more power, more voice than students. And so I think it is really revolutionary to question that balance of power. And I think it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of courage.
I thought of why nobody is taking initiative in changing these problems, changing these things. Why are they being like this? Why is the government not doing any steps? I started to realize that blaming that nobody will change is not a good result. We must get inside it, and we must be an example for the change. We must be the start for the change.
I go to public parks and public places. I simply go, I take my djembe with me, I play it and I perform. I perform my poetries, I perform new songs, and the main motto of it is to leave a social message saying stop hatred or show equality, no discrimination.
Today we have 15 student leaders in our school with more than 6 pilot projects working on diverse issues. We're working with almost 400 people.
There's an African proverb that goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together.
Speak up when they have confidence. So if you want to bring a change, you need to communicate. And to communicate, you need confidence.
For making people aware, it's some first thing we need to make ourselves aware, right? So we read about the policies, we read everything, what the policy contains, what are the information we need to collect for making people aware. And then we had people who are just going around in the area and doing surveys.
When you start being open to a person or frank, the other person shares their personal issues, why the person is not speaking up.
I live in a society where just not the friends who I have in my school I communicate with, but also with people who are in government schools. So when they come and tell me like I face these kind of problems, exams, and the teachers are like this, so I will be like, oh, we have to make a change. But then all these while, I've never taken a step to make a change. So I've been a hypocrite all these while. So that pushed myself, and then I came up with a plan I joined an organization called Kanavu in Chennai.
The biggest problem which I found in my city was the garbage dump yard, Pirana garbage dump yard. The practical thing that I did was to research about the garbage dump yard and the things, diseases caused by it to the community people towards the area.
Suddenly we started knowing that there is some illegal work happening of chemicals and everything which is not allowed in. So like what I did, like I shooted everything in my pad, and like suddenly I was caught by some people. They took my iPad, they deleted everything, and they were saying like we will kill you and everything. And then like we had a fight. Then after that day I came back and then the second morning I again went over there with my friend.
Dreams, hope and magic. The education system. The education system promises to be the greatest show on earth. You see if it is.
And why aren't we doing something to stop all this?
You know, no matter what people say, no matter what you belong to in society, it's like how much money you earn, I think just being yourself and finding that one unique thing in yourself is a great sunshine for me.
क्यों नहीं कहते कि मुझे शिवानी नहीं उसका भाई पसंद है, पर नहीं पड़ता स्त्री नहीं या तुम नहीं इतनी देर क्यों करते? अगर दौड़ से दम घुटता है, लगता है जैसे जवाब मिले तो समाज की घड़ी रुक जाएगी, घरों के शीशे फूटने लगेंगे, लोग गालियां देंगे, डर के मारे मौत आ गई।
I think there are huge problems in our community, but then I got to know about a policy called Right to Education, Section 12C, RTA Section 12C, and that's when I realized there are a lot of policy that is made, but people aren't aware of it. So why don't I take as a project? So I just went and made people aware of the project.
So basically the project which I am doing currently is Project IQ, which is named as Inner Quest.
Project I've done is called Sachetna.
So my project is named Vav, and I run a small initiative called Paramarsh.
Methodology and a startup.
One line which defines me is being alive after death. That's what is really connected to me because I really want to be alive after death.
I am working to reimagine how we think about leadership.
I truly believe that education is the only hope we have, and we are revolutionizing the only hope.
I've never felt as much equal partnership before.
everybody. Thank you so much for coming to today's KER Chronicles session. We were so glad that so many of you signed up. I'll be hosting today's session along with Raghavendra, and both of us are KER revolutionaries. And come together to share And if there is one thing you have to know about the space, is that this is a no judgment place, which means that it's completely okay if you mess up today. Just don't let that stop you from sharing the message that you really, really want to tell everybody. So that being said, we're going to start off with a performance by Palak Didi from Delhi.
Hello everyone, am I audible?
Yes.
So, just okay. So yes, this is Palak, and I'm actually a little bit nervous also, but at the same time, I'm very happy to express myself at this place. And please remind me if I exceed my time limit for that. Yes, I'm very happy. First of all, I'm the fellow of 2021, so I've come to teach for India, and it is like such a space. I have said it even during my institute. It's a space of expression for expression, and the same I felt for KER for the first time when I was introduced. I remember Raghavendra. We have even read through his thing. I have even met Ashwat virtually in our institute thing. So yes, I find it to be really best because it's, first of all, it's a very safe space for all the children, and here teacher and students are partner. And the third thing is students should be the change maker. So today I'll be sharing my thoughts. It's not a performance. I'll just be sharing it. I want to say that yes, what's the role of teacher? Teacher should never be the one who dictates the class. Instead, teacher should be the one who facilitates the class. I'll give you an example. For example, if there are 10 students, okay, and we all have to make a queue, then what is the role of teacher here? We should not ask them to, okay, aap height wise khade ho. Instead, teacher should show them their projection with the help of light. They would realize, okay, I am taller than, say, Palak is taller than Pooja. So Palak should go back and Pooja should come in front. So this way, the teacher should be facilitating the thing. Okay, so I want to know what is one very important thing. If you people can come to the chat box and write, what is one very important thing which allows us to be happy, to have a content life, to be very fulfilling, to unleash our potential. What is one thing you people feel is very important in everybody's life? Radical love, okay. Voice, I completely agree. Relationship. Freedom, being respected and sharing gratitude. Okay, equity, integrity, gratitude. I completely agree with all these qualities that are mentioned. And I feel, according to me, I feel one thing which is very important is something self-voice, your self-direction. Now, there comes a question, who plays an important role in giving you self-direction? Obviously, I have to realize what myself is saying. For example, I was an engineer. I never thought of coming to teaching field. I did my proper engineering course also, but I realized at the very later stage that I'm not meant for this. And thank God I realized today I'm into the education field, I'm into the teaching field, and I enjoy it like anything. So this was my self-voice, my inner voice. And who facilitated this? It was definitely my teacher, and it was my father. And as we all know, who is the first teacher of any student? It is the parent. Okay, do I have time or should I stop? Somebody help me because I don't know. Okay, so yes, this is what, go ahead. Okay, thank you, Pooja. So this is what I want to share, that those who are teaching, be a facilitator, have the 2 C's with yourself, lots of compassion in your heart, kindness, and the another is be very critical while designing your lesson plan, while designing how I should architect that thing so that my student would do really well. And for the students, like I'm really amazed to see all these people here, the members of KER. Just be courageous. And I am here to learn from you people because it's not about teaching and learning. I believe it's all about learning and sharing. I'm learning from Pooja, I'm learning from Raghavendra, I'm learning from Ashwath, I'm learning from Shivani, and I'm sharing it with some own added experiences. So yes, that's what I feel. Teacher should always be a facilitator, and every student should always be very courageous by putting forward their voice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Palak Didi, for that. And I guess one of the very important points that you highlighted was, teaching is not just a one-way process, and teaching is a two-way process in which, along with you being the facilitator for the students, you as well as learn from the students. I mean, that was very, very nice, wonderful thoughts, and we are glad that you are here and sharing your experiences at Teach for India. We now have a very dear friend of mine, Rupesh, and Rupesh is very passionate about student voice, and let's see what he brings to the table. Yes, Rupesh, you can start.
Yeah, Raghavendra, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Rupesh. I am from Mumbai, Sion. I am very passionate about extracurricular opportunities, and I have grabbed a lot of them since my childhood. And I just love art a lot. I love to express myself through art. I write poems, and I just paint occasionally when I feel heavy. And during my school days, I was bullied a lot due to the molds that society had created for people belonging to my gender. I wasn't able to fit in that mold because maybe I was a bit different from others. And due to things like toxic masculinity and gender stereotypes existing in my society, I faced a lot of resistance from people around me. Owing to which, I have one of my poems dedicated to genders. The title of the poem is Genders Through My Lens. Genders, humanity's glorious yet fruitless creation by ancestors ages and ages ago. Genders deciding thy worth to sustain life in this cosmos. Genders demarcating deeds, aspirations, and abilities of an individual. Genders is what has been propagated by generations with none to question at all. Genders leaving behind the victimized and carrying ahead the privileged ones. Genders making the victimized more vulnerable in the society. Genders just biological trait, but exaggeration of them is what it is. Genders need overhaul amplification in the aged ideologies that we own. Gender's gap can be untangled by can't be untangled by imposition of forceful laws dragging people's dead in that direction. Genders initiating crimes hindering the honor and prestige of guys. Genders associated with the abstract philosophies of people. Genders need equity, equality, adjustment, and freedom. Gender's gap can be eradicated with the essence of respect amongst the two. Genders need respect being imparted since the first foot on this planet Earth. Genders driving people's deed onto right path we see. Genders need courage to be in someone else's shoes. Gender equality may be a long road, but together we can complete this journey. Genders seem redundant if we see through the lens of humanitarianism. Genders are just biological trait. Don't let them be your identity. Owing to my passion towards gender, I have currently started one of my own project entitled the Equality Project, which focuses on bridging the gap amongst all the genders and providing equality to all the genders with the essence of understanding and respect, keeping peace in the forefront. We have currently started holding sessions and panels, and we are working on developing a leadership track that will help students from marginalized sections to come up, and will help them recognize their voice. How can they create impact of their existence in this society? I feel the education system that we owe has a lot of inequity within that. So we need to decrease that inequity through taking initiatives. This is a tough time for all of us, where the pandemic has intensified the struggle that all of us have been going through, and let's take this as an opportunity to reimagine education and take the leadership, us as stakeholders, to come ahead and just take the lead to make a change in our society and just trying to question things around us by critically analyzing things around us. So we need to come forward as stakeholders, as change makers, as leaders of the future generation, because we are the ones who are going to be impacted the most. KER has helped me a lot in recognizing my voice and understanding my purpose on this planet, and I was able to do that, and hence here I am. And we are planning to socialize our equality project by trying to create its own official website on which we are currently working, and we are just aiming towards a society where people are provided equality and equity without like irrespective of their genders, and we respect all the genders that we have, and we firmly believe that everyone has the freedom to express themselves however they want, irrespective of the way, irrespective of their gender. So we need to give them the freedom to express themselves, and the society should acknowledge and accept it instead of trying to judge and criticize them. Thank you so much, guys.
Oh my God, like I have no words for this, Rupesh. It started with so much passion on you sharing your story, and then it just for me it just highlighted, in this pandemic where everything seemed dark, you are showing that our students are the light, and we can be much more aware than what just our age says. And I really love that, Rupesh. Thank you for this. We now have, since we believe kids and educators as equal partners, we have equal number of participants with adults and students. So we have Soumya Didi, and let's see what Soumya Didi has for us.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Hi, everyone. My name is Soumya. I'm a 2017 Pune alum. I'm very grateful and thrilled to be reading aloud a story today from a book called In Crisis, We Persist. I'm not sure if you can see it. I hope you can. This book is an anthology of short stories published by the Center for Equity and Quality in Universal Education. The book narrates stories of how teachers in rural India created learning experiences and reimagined education despite the many challenges caused by the pandemic. Today, I will be reading aloud the second chapter of the book. I really hope it inspires you as much as it did for me. This chapter is called Building Bridges. This chapter is called Building Bridges, and it was written by Rachna Bishrawat. In the chat, I will also be dropping the link where you can download this ebook for free. So here we go. Building Bridges. It is 8 p.m. in the Sangwan forested hilly area near Musarane village of Maharashtra. Hey Akash, chala lokar. Pinesh Sharancha phone ala hai. Hey Akash, hurry up. Pinesh sir is calling. 10-year-old Jai Deva jumps on one foot, then the other. He has come across to his cousin Akash's thatched hut in the quiet of the winter night. An excited Akash gets his little sister and follows Jai to his house next door. Jai's younger brother Vijay and two more kids from the neighborhood are waiting for them on the bare floor, feet crossed and eyes shining. A small Chinese handset is carefully nestled in Vijay's palm, on which their class teacher Pinesh Jadhav waits patiently for his audience. Meetya Sarvane Anle. I've got them all, sir, Jay says, holding the phone close to his mouth. Tu film star hai. You're a film star, responds the smiling voice of his teacher. Today, I shall tell you a story, says Pinesh. 6 sparkling smiles light up the room. More than 12 kilometers away in his house in Akloli village, Pinesh leans back on his pillow and begins an animated rendition of a story from their Marathi textbook. Among all the teachers in Maharashtra who strived hard to overcome the challenges of teaching in the lockdown is 36-year-old Pinesh from Zilla Parishad School, Musarane. With only 6 out of 40 students with smartphones in the family, teaching virtually was a challenge. Pinesh devised a program called Amcha Gav Amchi Shala, Chala Setu Bandhuya, a bridge between students and teachers. We instilled a sense of belonging amongst the villagers towards the school, even if they did not have kids studying here. We approached people with smartphones who could teach children in their neighborhood. The Gram Panchayat supported the cause, and soon enough, Volunteers from the community were enlisted as surrogate teachers, giving a few hours every week to students who would come to their house. A WhatsApp group called Amchi Shala Musrane was formed that has 18 members with smartphones. But the real challenge lay ahead. Nearly one third of Pinesh's students come from the scheduled tribes living in a cluster of huts 2.5 kilometers from the village, deep inside the Sangwan forest. These families belong to the Katarani, Warli, and Malhar Koli tribes. They work in brick kilns or as daily wagers. Very few possess even simple feature phones. While technology has not pervaded here, it was imperative education did. On discovering that Manoj Diva, the father of two of his students, had a simple phone, Pinesh made another bridge. I started teaching the children in his neighborhood on speakerphone at 8 p.m. before the family had dinner, and so we managed to cover all 40 of our students. Carving his own version of a World Wide Web, Pinesh managed to permeate all points where his students were. Pinesh grew up in Khandgaon, a small village in Maharashtra. Most people here were farmers or kept cattle, selling milk to a dairy in the nearby town of Tisgaon. He recalls waking up at 5 a.m. and cycling 5 kilometers to the next town for a bus for college. He gave up the option of doing engineering or studying agriculture in favor of a D.Ed because he wanted to bring change in society. When I conduct functions in my school, I do not ask my students to raise slogans like Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Instead, I tell them not to spit on the road, to keep our village clean, to stop people from honking loudly on the road. These are the things that will make our country great. Written by Rachna Bishtrawat. Thank you.
Thank you for that story. At KER, we really believe in the power of stories, and that was so nice. We really look into that book. Thank you so much, Soumya Didi. We now have Sadaf. Sadaf is a student. Sadaf, you can go ahead now.
Yes. Hello everyone, I am Sadaf and I am an 8th grader and I'm from Ahmedabad. So today I'm going to share a poem on gender equality that I wrote myself. So here it goes. Hey, see a black girl. People will say that, but they are also not like a pearl. What are upper and lower castes? They never matter to people, so who are you to discriminate? And that is just your mistake. The way they are treated is totally unfair. Why to give so much respect to people who is fair? I was told not to ever fight with boys. Because I'm weak? No, I'm not. If I cry, I am weak. But if a boy cries, he is very hurt. Stop and think about it. And think, if you are at the one's place who's been discriminated, that will teach you how to be great. Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Sadaf. That was so nice. And I have no words for you. Like a 8th grader highlighting those important issues. We are really grateful for you to share that. Thank you so much. Okay, we have Astha. Astha is a 10th grader and she's from iTeach. Astha, you can start your performance.
Yeah. Hello everyone, I am Asta Chaube from iTeach KER 10th grade, and today for this performance I have written a short story and it's related to my life only, and through this poetry I wanted to share my life experience. I have written the topic as your voice and your choice. The reason behind writing this story is because
Asta, can you hear us? Oh, I guess there's a slight internet issue. Astha has dropped off. We'll get her into a later part of it. No problem. We have Tanvi Shukla. She's from Delhi, and Tanvi is also, I guess, reciting a poem. Or let's see what Tanvi has for us.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so hello everyone, this is Tanvi here. I am from Delhi and I am someone who is very passionate about working around gender equity and writing about gender equality because I have always seen women and people belonging from LGBT community being the marginalized genders and one who suffers the most. I also believe a lot in the power of arts and always use it as a tool to express myself and give an idea to the people around like what reimagination of various systems belong to me. So today I will be reciting one of my poems, which is about the existence and struggles of being a woman in today's world looks like. The name of the poem is She the Curse. So it goes like, from the day a woman gets pregnant to the day she gives birth to a new life. The questions of curiosity for the society is whether it's a girl or boy. The enthusiasm depends upon the genitals that the child has. The small face with big bright eyes. World's most tranquil and smile. The innocence and the virtue of the newborn with soft and visual feet are abruptly being denied. If that's a curse for the family who mandatorily need to step out of the door next tomorrow, but not the strong hire of the family which was being expected, but not the in the thrice the place where lights need to gleam bright, plunging the darkness aside fuses, the environment where happiness should glimpse on the faces with big smiles turns upside down. The dejection in the vibes seems like a mourn. The dulcet tones and biases beliefs are enough to scare more up to death. The breath starts to swing. The heart beats turn even more fast. When she cries for the first times begins an instance of guilt for the world apart. All the sins which were never being done are imposed in the name of mother. The one who just went through 9 months of pain becomes the criminal and rests sitting on the chair of judge. The unconceivable pain that can't be measured in numbers, neither through the temperature of thermometer nor the weight of the weighing balance machine. Just think how horrifying it must be, where the mother must have died 1,000 times each and every second. But looking at all the applications and sacrifices behind, we keep on lying the bricks of patriarchy and misogyny with mutiny, without giving a thought to the extensive wall standing in the front, a wall with several cracks but still standing strong, a wall that is cemented with the blood and oppression, whose gaps are refilled with the differences in orthodox thoughts every time, supporting the despotism and cruelty in a way that it's too long. We let a single chromosome decide the actual worth of an individual on the planet of great humans, the pellucid classification of one who will be privileged and one who need to bawl for their rights for millions of years. So yeah, that was one of the poem which is very close to my heart because it really describes the instance and how the society blames a woman which for a crime which she have never done. So yeah, thank you so much.
Wow, Tanvi, that was such amazing line. The chromosome thing. I mean, I have no idea about this session itself. Like everybody is so amazing. So yeah, if Astha is back, maybe she can continue performance. Astha, can you hear us?
Yeah, Bhaiya, sorry, actually I dropped out.
Yeah, no problem. We can start.
Yeah. Hello everyone. I am Astha Chabe from I Teach KER 9 grade, and like because of certain reason I'm not able to on my video, but yeah, I'm gearing up from year to year, like behind this camera even. So today I wanted to tell you all one story that is one poetry that is written by me, that is your voice and your choice. The reason behind writing this story, because I believe that KER is not only talk about the climate changes, about kids and educators as partners, but it also talks about gender equality and a safe voice. So yeah, here I begin. I was very shy and a silent girl from the start. I always tried to be accepted in everyone's heart. I never dared to raise my voice against wrong things, as I returned from my society's judgment, who had cutted my wings. One day, I heard a painful voice. She was a girl who was screaming, but the covert society not dared to help her, instead of blaming. Her painful eyes were staring at me with lots of hopes, so that I could raise my voice for her that night. But I didn't dare. I didn't dare to raise my voice and to fight for her right. I escaped from there and locked myself in a dark room. There I realized that even I ran away from that place, but still I am in a gloom. Her painful eyes was coming in front of me again and again. Then I stood up and went to rescue that girl from her pain. Yes, I did it. I went against my society and raised my voice. Then I realized my one single voice is stronger than others, and I made my right choice. Today, I want to tell you that raise your voice even though you are alone, as one small stone can create an enormous noise in a silence. Let's together raise our voice for violence. Today, I can confidently say that my voice is my weapon, but I want to ask you all that shall my words become a guide for those whose voice go unspoken? Thank you.
Oh my God, that was incredible. Like that question in the end. I mean, raising your voice, even if you're alone. Very, very important stuff. Thank you so much, Asta, for doing that. We now have one more educator with us. We have Rishabh Bhaiya. And yes, Rishabh Bhaiya, you can take your space.
Okay. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I am Rishabh Bhaguna, all the way from the land of the Lords, that is Devbhoomi, Uttarakhand, India. So, I welcome you all to the powerful session of this KER, and I first of all I will be delivering some kind of a speech, but that will not be a speech. I assure you, that's more of a life changing life changing kind of a thing. Okay, so I'm sure ki you will be giving 4 to 5 minutes to me. Okay, so I will start from this. First of all, think big. This is that one kind of a thing we always we we don't have to bound ourselves about any kind of limitations, right? I can say, if we start little things putting together, it will give you a definite amount of proportion in return. And the second thing in this point, that is thinking big, I emphasized on that big, that is big, means be in gratitude. I repeat, big means being in gratitude. So never forget your roots, okay, and always be in a gratitude. The second thing or the second point I would like to mention here is, don't overthink. Just take a first step towards any kind of a thing and trust your instinct. There's always a thing called gut feeling, where we do believe in our instincts and we follow our instincts, that is in the right direction. That instinct always boosts us towards taking the right step in a right direction. And the third last and but not the least, is your value increases when you add your values increase when you add worth to someone. Like I am adding my worth to all of you. That's why my value increases. And there is such a wonderful point in leadership, like LWT, which I recently read in the book titled "The Leader Who Had No Title" by Robin Sharma. That leaders lead without a title. That is, you don't need any title to be any kind of a specific person. To if I am delivering any kind of a speech to anyone, that really doesn't mean I am that kind of a person. I am a motivational speaker or that kind of a person. Even if I am a 10th grade or even lower grade student, I can deliver any kind of a speech to motivate or to encourage someone. So that's all. And I hope I have taken my space for this. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And bye-bye. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you so much, Rishabhaya. I think a lot of the things that you were saying are things that I've been realizing lately as well. You told us so many realizations in such little time. Thank you so, so much for that. We've come to the end of today's KER Chronicle sessions, and I'm not just saying this because I have to, but I truly think that I saw so much confidence and passion over here today, and I'm sure so many people over here agree. This was very inspiring for me, and I definitely wanted, I feel like looking at more poems right now. Thank you so much, everybody, for being such good listeners and for encouraging everybody else on the chat box. And we hope to see you back in more KER spaces. In fact, you can come back tomorrow, 4 p.m. for KER's third day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
To change, we have found our voice, we know we have a choice. Our little light is shining bright, we're all made of stars, and the future's ours. Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for. We can put our broken world back together. We're diamonds in the rough, we can be wise and tough. You try to bury us, but we are seeds. We won't be shy or scared, we'll arrive prepared. Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar. We can change the world, now watch us soar. We know what we need, it's time for us to lead. We are the ones we are waiting for. We're gonna rise up, rise up, rise up. Rise up, we gotta rise up, rise up, rise up.
We gotta rise up when the times are tough. We gotta rise up when we're out of luck. We gotta rise to the occasion, change the equation, make sure that we help raise education. To every student in the world, this is your creation. What we do now is a gift for generations to come. So don't let them tell you that we're done, cause we're just getting started, so tell them we've just begun. Yeah.
Just watch us shine, we may be small, but hear us roar.